Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EG.
Folks, welcome to One Edition Politics and Radic. Egberto Willies, your host. Thank you so kindly for being part of the show. We have a great show for you today, and it is packed. So we have to get through a whole lot today, but you know these are difficult times. Welcome aboard to our viewers. Welcome aboard from Brooklyn, New York, AVQ. Senor Michael Rodden. Welcome aboard. Joe from Los Angeles, California. Eric Hayes from Atascocita, Kingwood, and we have a new watcher, first time watching, Marie McQueen. Welcome aboard, Marie McQueen. Thank you so kindly for being here. Tony is in the house. Barbara Fetante, how you doing, beautiful? I haven't heard from you in a long time. How's Austin, Texas, my beautiful lady? Send me a chat, right? You can chat in the application right there. Man, it's great seeing you, young lady. It's great seeing you. VLT, welcome aboard. Adam, welcome aboard, my brother. Great to see everybody here. Okay, we got to get into it rather quickly, but beforehand, let me read. Michael Ruddin says, Egberto, one for the screen. The US dollar has now lost more than 10% of its value this year. It's the worst first half in 40 years. This is the direct result of Trump's tariffs and resultant market uncertainty. And wait till we put more on the books with the debt that this humongous transfer of wealth to the rich is going to do. Here is your piece on the screen, my dear brother. Let me put it to the side and not on the front. Chris just joined as well. Lee the Bearcat from Austin, Texas is in the house. Carrie from Athens, New York. And by the way, Marie McQueen is from Anchorage, Alaska. How's the temperature in Anchorage in June? I imagine it's not hot. It's rather cool. Barbara says, I'm doing great. You have one of the best broadcasts. Thank you, sis. Love you for that. Love you for that. Thank you for being here, folks. Look, we have a lot to cover, and I mean a lot. So let's go ahead and get busy. Let me tell you where I want to start. I want to start with a Republican guy that I have little respect for, but that is very right in what he did last night. And I want to play, I cleaned it up. Welcome aboard, Yvette Avery Herod from Atlanta, Georgia, as well as, and Barbara is from Austin, Texas. Paul Fleming from Powder Springs, Georgia. Let's go ahead. I want to play you right now this stuff from Senator, what is his name? Tom Tillis. It's very important because this is from a Republican who didn't accept the Medicaid expansion to the Affordable Care, a Republican who doesn't like Medicaid, but understand that this bill would be destructive to his own. I want you to listen to this, and then we'll come back and we'll continue. We've got a lot of other videos to show you. Here we go, without further ado. Republican Senator Tom Tillis is one of the two senators who voted against proceeding with the destructive, big, ugly bill this weekend. And in the process, Donald Trump excoriated him, told him that he was going to get him primaried, and he simply destroyed the guy because the guy wanted some answer. Tom Tillis is no progressive. He's no liberal. He believes in cutting Medicaid in a responsible way, what he thinks is a responsible way. But what he understands is what Donald Trump did was actually a traitorous thing against the American people with regards to their health care. And he acknowledges this. So what I want to do is play for you his speech in full. I chopped it up to get out all the spaces to compress it as best as possible, but you need to listen to this speech. This is an honorable guy, even if you don't agree with his conservative policies. Listen to this and then
Mr. President.
The Senator from North Carolina.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I come today to explain my vote yesterday for voting against the motion to proceed on this bill. Mr. President, I spent most of my career in management consulting, managing large, complex enterprise projects, multi-year, thousands of hours, a lot of complexity that take people, process, and technology to make it work. I learned a lot in that career. And I was able to go to the legislature and take that mindset as a member of the minority for 2 terms. And then we got a majority in 2010. And I found myself being the Speaker of the House. And Mr. President, we were in the middle of the financial crisis. When I got sworn in January of 2011, North Carolina had a $2 billion shortfall on a $20 billion general revenue fund. And I had 6 months to balance that budget. Well, Mr. President, we did something that had not been done in North Carolina. We took the time to understand every aspect and every dollar that was being spent in government. We determined how to cut government in a way that was sustainable. We cut 12% from the university system budget, not the rate of growth, but the actual spending. And I had some people say that it was going to be disruptive and the University of North Carolina would never be the same again. But Mr. President, we did it in a way that was instructed by the operations of the university system. And we did it in a way in concert with the chancellors. And you know what happened, Mr. President? We actually balanced the budget. We did do those cuts. And the last time I checked, the North Carolina university system is still considered one of the greatest systems in the United States of America. Why do I use that example? Because the Medicaid proposal in this bill bears no resemblance to that kind of discipline and due diligence. It has no insights into how these provider tax cuts are going to be absorbed without harming people on Medicare. And even worse, most of my colleagues do not even understand on either side of the aisle the interplay of state-directed payments and the devastating consequences of the funding flows that are going to be before us. Mr. President, here's how I figured out the impact in North Carolina. I used to be Speaker of the House, and I like the Speaker and have good relationship with the Speaker and the President pro tem, so I called them up. And I had my staff ask them if they would do an economic impact assessment on what this proposed bill would do to the Medicaid program in North Carolina. But I didn't want just the view of the Republican partisan staff that reports to the Speaker and the President pro tem on how they're going to absorb this bill. I decided to go to Josh Stein, the governor, and I went to his Democrat staff for Medicaid. I asked them to prepare an estimate into Josh Stein, the governor, and I went to his Democrat staff for Medicaid. I asked them to prepare an estimate in negotiation. I asked 3 different independent groups, a partisan Democrat group, a partisan Republican group of experts, and a nonpartisan group of the Hospital Association to develop an impact assessment independent, not talking, not sharing, reporting to me. And what I found is the best case scenario is about a $26 billion cut. Now, we've got a delay, so it may be 2 years, it may be 1 year. All it does is make that $26 billion happen in year 1 or year 12, but the impact is the same, Mr. President. And it's indisputable. Now, when I actually presented this report that you can find on my website, I had people in the administration say, you're all wet. You don't know what you're doing. I said, well, why don't we assemble a series of meetings? We're going to provide you our analytics. You go through it, tear it apart. I told about Mehmet Oz, who I consider to be one of the most capable people in the Trump administration. He's a brilliant man, and I'd encourage my Democrat colleagues to talk to him. He knows this stuff, and he's very focused on getting efficiencies out of CMS. So we had 3 different conference calls with CMS, with Oz on the phone and on the video and me on the video. And I said this, guys, I would love nothing more than you to prove me wrong. I would love nothing more for you to tell me it's not 26 billion or 30 billion, that it's 2.6 billion or 2 billion or 200 million. But after 3 different attempts for them to discredit our estimates, the day before yesterday, they admitted that we were right, that between the state-directed payments and the cuts scheduled in this bill, there's a reduction of state-directed payments, and then there's the reduction of the provider tax. They can't find a hole in my estimate. So what they told me is that, yeah, it's rough, but North Carolina's used the system. They're going to have to make it work. All right. So what do I tell 663,000 people in 2 years or 3 years when President Trump breaks his promise by pushing them off of Medicaid because the funding's not there anymore, guys? When the White House is advising the president are not telling him that the effect of this bill is to break a promise. And you know, the last time I saw a promise broken around health care, with respect to my friends on the other side of the aisle, it's when somebody said, if you like your health care, you can keep it. If you like your doctor, you can keep it. We found out that wasn't true. That made me the second Republican Speaker of the House since the Civil War, ladies and gentlemen, because we betrayed the promise to the American people. 3 years later, it actually made me a U.S. Senator because in 2010, it had just been proposed. And just anticipation of what was going to happen was enough to have a sea change election that swept Republicans into the majority for the second time in 100 years. Now, Republicans are about to make a mistake on health care and betraying a promise. It is inescapable that this bill in its current form will betray the very promise that Donald J. Trump made in the Oval Office or in the cabinet room when I was there with finance, where he said we can go after waste, fraud, and abuse on any programs. Now, those amateurs that are advising him, not Dr. Oz, I'm talking about White House healthcare experts, refuse to tell him that those instructions that were to eliminate waste, fraud, and abuse, all of a sudden eliminates a government program that's called the provider tax. We have morphed a legal construct that admittedly has been abused and should be eliminated into waste, fraud, and abuse. Money laundering. Read the code. Look at how long it's been there. I was Speaker of the House. I refused to do it. When I left North Carolina, I said, we're not going to do the provider tax. I left it at 2.5%. Now it's a mistake on the part of the leadership. And frankly, I know my friends are probably going to think I'm a little bit crazy here, but I actually passed a law that made it illegal to expand Medicaid. Why did I do that? Because I was convinced someday we would be here. And I would have rather found a way to get more people on Medicaid at the standard FMAP than having this 90-10 match and watching it disappear and taking away desperately needed health care. So, Mr. President, over the course of the evening, I may look for an opportunity to speak again, but I'm telling the president that you have been misinformed. You supporting the Senate mark will hurt people who are eligible and qualified for Medicaid. I love the work requirement. I love the other reforms in this bill. They are necessary, and I appreciate the leadership of the House for putting it in there. In fact, I like the work of the House so much that I wouldn't be having to do this speech if we simply started with the House mark. I've talked with my colleagues in North Carolina. I know that we can do that. And I believe that we can make sure that we do not break the promise of Donald J. Trump that he's made to the people who are on Medicaid today, Mr. President. But what we're doing, because we've got a view on an artificial deadline on July 4th that means nothing but another date and time, we could take the time to get this right if we lay down the House mark of the Medicaid bill and fix it. And I know that my friend and colleague from New Hampshire, I jumped in front of her, so I'm only going to take another minute or two. But Mr. President, we owe it to the states to do the work to understand how these proposals affect them. How hard is that? I did it. How hard is it? How hard is it to sit down and ask the Medicaid office, ask the legislative staff, ask the Independent Hospital Association what the impact is? If there's no negative impact, what's wrong with daylight? What's wrong with actually understanding what this bill does? Mr. President, I know what it does because I spent a career implementing complex systems, and then I had the privilege of being Speaker of the House, and I implemented them in a government setting. And since I've been here, I've focused on bills and watched their implementation from the cradle until they're fully implemented. Mr. President, we owe it to the American people, and I owe it to the people of North Carolina to withhold my affirmative vote until it's demonstrated to me that we've done our homework. We're going to make sure that we fulfill the promise, and then I can feel good about a bill that I'm willing to vote for. But until that time, I will be withholding my vote. Thank you, Mr. President.
Now, because he stood up for a truth, he decided not to run. He won't quite say it that way, but he understood that the waves of air was against him. The headwinds was too much because Donald Trump is going to let him pay for not allowing Donald Trump to betray the people, to break a promise to the people about Medicare, Medicaid not being cut. He admits it. He confessed the bill cuts Medicaid, and it will hurt his 600,000 plus North Carolinians if it is allowed to occur. And he decided he is going to lose his job because he won't do that to his constituents. Amazing. And the thing about it, folks, is that all these other Republicans know the truth. So why is it that they know they're walking into a trap? They know that the people that are going to get hurt are mostly people in red states. They know it, but they're so scared. They are so that they can't. And here's how Elizabeth Warren recently put it. I think she did a marvelous job, though I think she's kind of half wrong, and I'll explain. Elizabeth Warren nails it. You know, last night on the floor of the Senate, Tom Tillis gave a passionate, he's a Republican, conservative, somebody who also hates Medicaid. After all, he didn't even accept the Medicaid expansion to the Affordable Care Act when he could in his state of North Carolina. But he gave a passionate speech on the floor with the expectation that Republicans heard it, pointing out that, yes, it is true. Forget about what Republicans are saying. They will be cutting Medicaid substantially. Points it out, and he gives the math behind it. He did 3 different studies. He asked the administration to validate his studies, which they did. And in fact, yes, Medicaid is being cut. So Elizabeth Warren says, look, you guys know that this is going to affect your constituents more than anyone else, but you're still going with it. What's the reason for that? And here's how she explains what the real reason is.
I actually don't think that my Republican colleagues have lost their hearts. They have lost their spines. It seems that all they can do now is bow down to Donald Trump and his billionaire donors. They will bow down, even if it means hurting families, community hospitals, and nursing homes in their own states.
I think Senator Elizabeth Warren erred in one respect. And the respect in which she erred is when she said, I don't think you have lost your humanity or your morals, is what she is implying. What you've actually lost is your spine. Well, let me tell my good friend Elizabeth Warren, yes, they've lost their spine, but they could have only allowed their spine to be lost if their humanity and their morality gave way first. Because it's a logical spine. It's a virtual spine. Donald Trump can't beat up on them. He can probably try to get people to scare them. But look, the bill is underwater substantially. So it's not like people are going to rise up if these guys stop supporting the bill, because they know support for the bill means harm to their mothers, their fathers, their cousins, their aunts, their sisters, their brothers. So they'll probably say, thank you, if even so quietly. Republicans are playing a bad game here. The people know what's going on, or they're starting to realize what's going on. It's just the sycophants that are there rah-rahing for this bill. Only the sycophants. So I hear Sister Elizabeth Warren, but I think she erred in giving them a partial break by just thinking they've lost their spine. They've not had a spine for a while, but to not have a spine in this case meant you had to lose your morality, your humanity, your sense of fairness. And it simply, it just shows that deep within an evil resides. Deep within an evil reside. Absolutely so. Now, here's the funny thing about it, right? We constantly talk about Medicaid and that, look, we know that it's going to cut Medicaid substantially. We know that in cutting Medicaid substantially, what it's going to do is get rural hospitals, a lot of rural hospitals closed, which means a lot of people will die. Why? Because if they get in an accident or whatever, they have to drive a long distance to get care. It'll also bankrupt them, because if they need a life flight, it'll be life flighted from some rural area to the hospital. And when that bill comes, I can tell you what life flights cost, ridiculous ridiculously high. Likewise, and we talk about what's going to happen to Medicare. While the bill cannot change Medicare, there are passed laws that says if the budget deficit grows to a particular level, we get seizures of sequesters of Medicare dollars, not Medicaid, but actual Medicare dollars get sequestered if the budget starts to grow too fast. And at $3.5 trillion, that sequestration will come into effect. And therefore, those of you who think, well, that's Medicaid people, first of all, a lot of your families who are in nursing homes, that's Medicaid who's paying for it. A lot of folks who have children with chips, all that kind of stuff, they also have Medicaid, right? SNAP, etc. All of that is getting cut. But it's worse. Those of you who think, well, I am upper middle class and I am on Medicare and I have the best Medicare plans, etc., you're going to be hit too because the sequestration comes into play. That's going to immediately mean less money going into traditional Medicare, less money going into I'll be happy for that, into Medicare Advantage, etc. So let's be clear here. This hurts everybody. But you know what a lot of people don't talk about? The 5 billions here, the 10 billions here, the 20 billion here that gets taken out. And I want to show you how evil this bill is in the way they do things. I mean, it is so sneaky. Unless you understand a bit of economics, a bit of the ideological gravity that's pushing the bill, you don't quite get it. Let me go ahead and play the piece because I think I explained how I came up upon this particular issue, but it's very important. When we talk about this bill doing all that is possible to move your money, the money of the middle class and the money of the poor to the wealthy, but it does it in some very calculated and devious manners. I want to give you one example. When the bill came out at midnight Saturday, again, like I said, I was watching all this crap over the weekend so that you guys don't have to, okay? When all this crap was written, I got the original copy of the release at midnight that, what's his name, released, the senator from South Carolina released, the official text, 940 pages of this bill. Now, I can't read 940 pages. I don't have the time to read 940 pages, so I depend on reports from reputable sources. But I needed some answers right away. So I took the 940 bill. I have a paid version of ChatGPT. So I ran that PDF through ChatGPT, and I asked ChatGPT to tell me what it says about vouchers, what it says about the credits and so forth for, voucher schools, because I had heard through the grapevine that they were doing some sort of magical thing with vouchers and schools. And here is a devious thing that they did. The one big, beautiful bill includes a new federal tax credit that allows donors, parents or not, whether you're a parent or not, to make contributions to scholarship granting organizations known as SGOs that support private and religious school vouchers. The provision is structured as a dollar for dollar credit, capped at either $5 billion per year in the House version or $4 billion per year in the Senate version. And this kind of stuff is scattered all over the bill. And here's what it does, people. Let's say I bought a stock for $100. If I bought a stock for $100, and let's say over time, that stock appreciated to $1,100. My capital gains on that stock is $1,000. If I have 1,000 of that stocks, my capital gains is $1 million. And that's what we're talking about here. So let me tell you what this statement does. Let's say I take that stock and I sell it. I would owe, let's say I have 1,000 shares of that stock. So I have $1 million gain. Let's say I sold that stock for that $1,100 each, which gives me $1.1 million. My tax on that should be $238,000, somewhere around there, the capital gains tax. Well, guess what, guys? If I take that $1 million and donate it to an SGO, a scholarship granting organization for a Christian school or a religious school that give vouchers, I simply take I give that to the school. I gave the school $1.1 million, right? I can now, instead of paying the tax on that $1.1 million of $238,000, I go to the United States government and said, I donated $1.1 million to that school. My tax credit, not a deduction, a tax credit. I get a tax credit of $1.1 million. So I give the school $1.1 million and the government gives me back in my tax credit, because I'm rich now, it gives me back $1.1 million. And all I need to do is I can go buy back that stock at $1 million. It looks like I gave a donation to the schools, but guess what? The government gave me all the money back that I donated to the school. The school gets $1.1 million. And here's the kicker. That school could decide to also give my kid a scholarship to go to that school or any school. So I could donate to one of these schools, get all my money back, and then get a free education for my kid. That is what's called transferring money to the rich. And you don't even see it if you don't understand what they're doing. And it costs money to do that, because that is your tax dollars going right back into the hands of that rich person. But because they don't explain it to you, you don't see that. And this is just one $5 billion item in the bill that I found. Just one. There are hundreds, thousands of these in a 940-page bill. And this is how they are taking your Medicaid. They're taking your Medicaid away. They're taking your SNAP away. They're increasing the budget. They're blowing up the budget deficit to make rich people rip us off with things like this.
We spend a lot of time deconstructing the news, trying to parse it into a form that everybody can understand. We try to find those little nitpicks where it flies above the fray.
Now, folks, I want to ask you honestly. Remember, all of this is in the bill, and there are a lot of other things like this in the bill. We have a huge mainstream media that's online 24/7. CNN is on 24/7. MSNBC 24/7. ABC has ABC Newslight. It has all these other stations. And I rotate through these stations. I'm a maniac as well. So I'm going through all these stations throughout the night, the day, the mornings, sometimes 1, 2 in the mornings. And they don't cover this stuff. So the American people don't know this stuff. I was talking to a few folks. If you want to know why we need independent media, why we need folks that are going to go into this stuff, here's the reason why. Because again, we have so much cable media out there, so much online media out there, and nobody comes out and explain this stuff to people. No, the American people are not stupid. They're not. They're made to be uninformed. They're made to be ignorant. And if they are made to be that way, that's how these charlatanes get away with all that they get away with, because people just don't know. Now, I've spent the time to tell you this. I've ran these things through to help. ChatGPT is a tool. There are people who use ChatGPT for plagiarizing. There are those who know how to use it as a tool. We use it as a tool to find stuff out that would take a lot of researchers out there to do. Right? They have the power to do that. They have the mass. They have the money to do that. But people who pays their bills don't want them to do that, because there's so much of these, what we used to call these things, pork. There's so much of this type of pork in the bill that just adds up. This one that I just talked about, the voucher stuff, they fund up to $5 billion. That's just one item. Think about having 300 of them in the bill doing that kind of stuff. Bev Ferguson says networks should cover these scams in the budget bill. They should, but they won't, and they will not, because these are things that transfer your money transparently. Transparently. So that big, beautiful bill, that's what we're talking about here when we try to explain all the tricks of the trade that these people are doing. Now, one of the other reasons that this occurs is that we don't have the spokespeople that the TV wants to hear from. Yesterday, I listened to all the network, the Sunday news, right? And I would think they would have the people who know this stuff, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Ayanna Pressley, the Rokana, they would have them discussing these different parts of the bill. That's not who they wanted yesterday. So who do they want yesterday? They wanted Warner from straight and suited Warner from Pennsylvania. And then they get a young woman from Alabama, the senator for the Republican side. And we have Warner from the Democratic side. And I'll be honest with you, if I didn't know this material, I would just say that Senator Britt cleaned Senator Warner's clock. Because let's go ahead and listen to it. Let's go and listen to it, because I was so upset when I did this one. I had to blog this one to check it out. Here is a good reason why the Democratic Party needs better leadership, younger spokespeople, and people that simply think fast on their feet. Because what occurred this morning on CNN State of the Union was pathetic on the part of the Democrats, even though they should be carrying a winning hand with a bill that's going to terrorize the American citizen. I want you to listen to how Senator Katie Britt handled the question about, wait a minute, why don't you just tax the wealthy and keep those tax cuts for the middle class, which is something that makes a lot of sense. Keep the tax cuts that Trump gave for the middle class, but get rid of it for the rich, which got most of it anyway, and would do a lot as far as making the bill better and not having to cut Medicaid and all these issues. Listen to how Katie handled that question.
One thing that I don't know what happened to it was there was a time when President Trump and his supporters like Steve Bannon were talking about maybe keeping the tax cuts for everybody except for people who are rich. And by rich, I mean making more than $1 million a year. Here's what Trump and Bannon had to say about it.
I actually think it's good politics to do it where richer people give up, and it's a very small, it's like a point, but they give it up to benefit people who are lower income.
The current system we have is not sustainable. It's just not. We're kidding ourselves. You have to go to an alternative. I think the alternative is budget cuts, and it has to be tax increases on the wealthy.
Whatever happened to that idea? Not that I'm here to give tips to you, but that would make this bill more popular.
Well, I think that... And
also more financially responsible.
Well, if you look at back over the last several years, obviously Democrats have had two bites at the apple when it comes to reconciliation, and at neither time did they touch that. It's because they understand that when you're looking for job growth and you're looking to actually build the economy, they know that the TCJA worked. And so us being able to continue to make sure that we're creating opportunity for Americans coast to coast, the numbers showed themselves that the economy began moving. The numbers that we had seen previously from OMB were put to shame. And President Trump's previous TCA actually made significant strides in that direction as far as moving the economy coast to coast. And if that had not been the case, then you know that Democrats and their two bites at the apple with regards to reconciliation would have taken care of that.
All right. What she said, of course, made no sense because Donald Trump's tax cuts did not really, it's a myth that his tax cuts paid for themselves. It's a myth that the tax cut substantially made any difference from the trajectory that Obama gave to Donald Trump's economy, because Donald Trump's economy was simply on the same trajectory that Obama gave to him. So that the statement that somehow his tax cuts made things better, I would wager and say if that tax cut instead went to programs for the working class, because they would immediately spend that money, the economic activity would have been larger. But instead of making this kind of argument, I want you to listen to how Warner handled that question as far as why, if you believe that you should drop the taxes, why didn't the Democrats do it when they had the opportunity to do it? Check this out.
Two questions on that. But the first one is the White House says that because of the extension of the Trump tax cuts in this legislation, there will be an increase in the take-home pay of a typical Virginia family anywhere between $8,000 and $14,000 a year. Won't that be good for the citizens of your state?
What I can show you other data that shows if you're at minimum wage, you will see your costs go up about 53%. based upon not only the healthcare cost cuts, but also the earned income tax credit, the EITC, make it much more difficult for folks. I think the overwhelming amount of data shows that on this one, this is tax cuts for the wealthiest to end up cutting healthcare. Plain and simple. You can put any lipstick you want on this pig, but it's still pig.
So I just asked Senator Britt about whatever happened to Trump and Bannon and others talking about letting the tax cuts on those who make more than $1 million a year expire. And she said, you probably heard her, Democrats had 2 bites of the apple to get rid of that. They didn't touch it. And that combined with the fact that somehow Trump is the one who came up with no tax on tips, which you would think that would be something that Democrats would have come up with. But no, Donald Trump's about to sign no tax on tips into the law, not the Democratic Party.
Well, Jake, you know what? My good friend Katie Britt and a lot of my other Republican friends are going to have a chance tonight to actually vote on whether we should let the tax cuts expire on the wealthiest of Americans. And could we take that money and put it back into not doing these?
But why didn't Democrats do it when you had the chance?
Well, we probably should have, but there was never a full-on assault. At this point, what has happened is you've got these tax cuts out there to kick 16 million Americans off of health insurance. Democrats would have never proposed that. And beyond the little hundreds of thousands in my state, millions across the country on food assistance.
Yeah.
And again, I got no problem with people who do well being rewarded well, but this goes against any American's basic sense of fairness.
Why Warner didn't go after tax on tips and really pointed out that it's nothing more than a gimmick, because people who are the ones who get a lot of tips in as workers, as food deliverers, etc., they don't pay any taxes on their tips anyway. Why? Because they don't make enough, because the standard deduction takes care of it. So the people who really benefit from tax on tips under Donald Trump would have been those rich people who can call anything tax, anything a tip. And if you can call anything a tip, then it means that those people who exceed the standard deduction are the only ones who would get to take advantage on the tax on tips. It looks very sellable, but when you expand it, it suddenly realizes that it's yet another tax break for people with better means. But again, we don't have people out there that are really fighting for the working class and telling the truth about the snow job Republicans are doing. And that's the problem with neoliberalism. We give the impression that we're out there, not we, I'm not a neoliberal, but the neoliberal Democrats, that's the problem. They give the impression that, yes, they're there for the working man. Yes, they're for the working woman. Yes, they're for the working people, which in general, progressives in the party are. Progressives in the party, even Biden, when confronted by the progressives, made likely the most progressive policies ever in a bill since FDR. But how did Warner answer that question? Well, yeah, maybe we should have done it after the fact. That opens the door to say the Democrats are full of it. They're not, but it opens the door for you to say that there are progressive Democrats out there that were ready to say, let's increase the taxes on the wealthy so that we can give the working class what they've earned, not what the wealthy has extracted from them, but what they've earned. Allow them to have what they've earned. But even with the argument, that discussion with Warner, what was Warner's answer? Oh, yeah, maybe we should have done it, but we didn't. No, he shouldn't. He should have said a much better answer would, we had too many neoliberals that prevented us from doing that. But do remember that the policies that Biden passed helped the working class, helped the middle class. And that is what the Republican bill, the big, ugly bill, is going to do today. He should have gotten, in as much as the neoliberals screwed up during the Biden administration, even as Biden had a great progressive bill that could have been better, meaning more paid for if we had taxed the wealthy, he should have said those things that we did right, they were cutting. And not ever go into the process of saying we should have done that. When Britt already said, we are right, because when the Democrats had 2 chances to take that, to get rid of those tax cuts for the wealthy, they didn't. That is the problem. That is a problem, and it's something Democrats better work on now. Listen to what progressives are doing. Listen to what progressives are promoting, because that is where not only the heart of the working class and the middle class is, that is how they will vote. And if any one of these guys believe that trying to be scared of what Mamdani did in New York, you have something coming. You better jump on the bandwagon. You better jump on the bandwagon. And you know who did and surprised me? Chris Murphy, a moderate Democrat, not an AOC. AOC was on his bandwagon a long time ago. We have yet to hear from Chuck Schumer. We have yet to hear from Hakeem Jeffries about Mamdani. You guys better get on the bandwagon, because he is a winner. Most of you are losers. He is a winner. But check it out. Check out how easy it was for Chris Murphy to do it. Well, so far, neither the House leader, Hakeem Jeffries, or the House leader, neither the House leader, Hakeem Jeffries, or the Senate leader, Democratic leader, Chuck Schumer, has endorsed Mamdani. Both of them are from New York. And guess what? Neither one of them has endorsed this guy. This guy showed how you win the hearts and minds of people by pointing out what has to be done to help the people you want to vote for them. And they've yet to do that. Well, this weekend, Senator Chris Murphy surprised me, Democrat of Connecticut. He came out pretty much and gave the kudos deserved by Mamdani. But not only did he give him the kudos, he warned the Democrats and told the Democrats, you should look at what he's doing. He reached the people. But moreover, again, not because you don't like all the ideas that he has, does that mean that he shouldn't have your support? And he shows that he will be supporting the mayor-to-be of New York. But anyhow, I want you to listen to this and we'll take it on the other side.
I have to ask you about the big news here in New York. Zohran Mamdani's victory, his big win in the Democratic primary for New York mayor. I'm going to speak to Assemblyman Mamdani in just a few moments from now. What lessons do you think Democrats should take from his win?
Well, I think it was a really important win, and I hope Democrats do take some lessons from it. He was laser-like focused on the issue of costs. He was laser-like focused on the issue of transferring power from people who have way too much of it, like the big real estate companies that jack up everybody's rent in New York, and putting that power in the hands of regular citizens. He was authentic, right? He's got some views that are a little bit out of the conventional mainstream, but you know what? The traditional political pundits have no idea what's actually mainstream in this country. And when you're talking about costs, when you're talking about rigging the economy every single day, when you're presenting big, bold ideas on how to do that, you're going to do pretty well in elections. And so Democrats should learn from his victory.
Leaders Schumer and Jeffries have not endorsed Mr. Mamdani yet. Do you think they should?
Well, I guess I don't give recommendations to my colleagues. I'm going to support him. I'm going to support him, and I think the Democratic Party would be well served by learning from his focus on lowering costs. That was what got him this nomination win.
I think Chris Murphy nailed it. And this is surprising to me because I don't consider Chris Murphy a very progressive Democrat. In fact, I consider him at best a moderate, more, pretty damn close to neoliberal. But it doesn't matter because, again, the idea was whatever happened in the primaries, for party unity, one should vote blue. It seems like they always want the progressives to do that. But when it's time for the moderates and the neoliberals to do that, when the progressives are in power, they don't want to do it. Well, I guess Chris Murphy got the message. Yes, Chris Murphy got the message, and the Democratic Party better get the message quickly, and it better learn about the dynamics of the Latino community. I'm going to go a little bit off subject. Over the weekend, I was reading my regular rag. I'm also a contributing editor to the Daily Kos, and every so often I also read some of the stuff of the founder, and he wrote an article that I thought I needed to respond to, and that's what I want to play here, what I had to say about it. I woke up this morning and I did my standard perusing. Daily Kos, one of the journals that I read every morning, the largest independent progressive rag on the internet, Daily Kos. All right. So I came across the founder's article, my buddy, Mr. Marcus Molitzes, and I had to comment about this because it's important. The title of it is Trump's Latino supporters are learning the hard way he meant every word. And this is what he wrote. He said, NBC News went to match Republican strongholds, Cuban and Nicaraguan communities, and found something remarkable. Trump supporters realizing they've been used. What did you think was going to happen when Trump won? NBC News reporter Morgan Radford asked one immigrant at a Texas ICE detention facility in a phone interview. He believed Trump when he said he was going to deport criminals, Radford translated. While he couldn't vote, obviously his whole family did, the honors, his wife says on camera. They used us. Yeah, they did. And you voted for your husband to be deported. That was your vote. Everyone paying attention, this is from Mr. Molitzes, everyone paying attention heard Trump loud and clear. To him, every brown immigrant is a criminal. Legal status doesn't matter. The Marshall Project documented thousands of instances where Trump linked immigrants to crime, and it literally started on day one when he said during his campaign kickoff, when Mexico sends its people, they are not sending their best. They're sending people that have lots of problems, and they're bringing those problems with us. They're bringing the drugs, they're bringing crime, they're bringing rapists, and some, I assume, maybe some are good. That was out of the mouth of Donald Trump. So why is it that one would not believe that Donald Trump was going to do what he said he was going to do? But, you know, I wanted to expand on that because the reason you have these Latinos supporting Donald Trump, and I'm then going to expand that not only to Latinos, but to women, to middle class folk, and to poor folks. But let's stick with one subject at hand. I wrote back on a long prose on the article where I said, I honestly do not understand, and this is important. I honestly do not understand why anyone is surprised. Trump understands perfectly the illness within the Latino community. Let me first point out that I am a Black Latino from Panama. In Latin America, until recently, we did not talk about race as it is done in the United States. Interestingly, you can look at the racial socioeconomic breakdown in every single Latino American community or every single Latino country and understand that we have been living a lie down there by ignoring systemic problems we sweep under the rug. Recently, guided mainly by young Afro-Latinas, countries from Peru to Venezuela to Colombia to Panama to Ecuador have been bringing the racial fraud in Latin America to the forefront. Latinos, even the darker ones, with their enslaved minds, allowed Trump to sell them a false adjacency to whiteness, where they had no problems voting against their own for what they thought would be acceptance. I wrote a book titled Tribulations of an Afro-Latino Caribbean Man, Racism Didn't Stop My Smile, Hope, or Journey Forward, where I detail the story of going to the University of Texas. When the son of one of the ministers in the Panamanian government came to the university, I took him under my wings. He was a white Latino. Eventually, he got invited into a white fraternity. When he saw me on campus, he would pretend not to see me. And it was clear he did not want his friends, his new friends, to know we were compatriots. That is what the disease of white supremacy does. It affects all of us. While we are happy to tell the Latinos that voted for Trump that they are gullible, self-hating, immoral, those who voted for Trump to rid us of immigrants are hurting themselves too, as the price of homes, produce, and much more goes up. I am trying with all of my platforms to promote the notion, the truth, that racism is a tool of the rich, irrespective of race, to maintain an economic system where the few enrich themselves on the backs of the many. And white people in the aggregate are harmed the most by it, but it is simply not advertised. But you know, it's easy to throw that thing on Latinos. Look at how you voted. But remember, a majority of white women voted for Trump, even as he is going to hurt them with his policies. A large percentage of middle class and poor people voted for him, as his policies are going to hurt them. Right now, we are fighting like hell to get the big, beautiful bill, aka the big ugly bill, stopped. It's going to hurt Latinos more. It's going to hurt MAGA more than it hurts anybody else. And they are supporting guys who are putting this bill out there. So we can't scapegoat just the Latinos, even though we knew that they were being gullible into believing that somehow they would be accepted. We get that, but we have to, the same blame we gave to the Latinos who converted to Republicanism, to MAGAism, we also have to give to the increased activity of black men who did the same thing, white women who did the same thing. All of these people must be informed that they were gullible for many reasons. Some of it, racism. Some of it, sexism. But some of it, simply wanting acceptance. And that is what the wealthy has done with the messaging that they put in the mainstream media. It is to reduce who you are to something that needs acceptance from a mythical few. And that is what allows them to conquer by dividing, conquer by having you vote against your own interests in the belief that somehow that is ultimately going to benefit you. It never works. It always fails. And it is failing currently to the nth degree. And if we don't do what's necessary to rein it in, we would have gotten exactly what we deserve. We would have gotten exactly what we deserve. Absolutely. So anyway, we are coming close to the end of the program. I can take one call if somebody wants to call in real quickly and say something. 281-823-7747. Let me put that in the chat just in case. That is 281-823-7747. That's all the videos I have for today, all the narrative I have for today. Anybody wants to give me a quick call, please feel free to do so. I'm throwing it into the chat, in both chats right now. While I wait to see if somebody calls, this is the time that I make the offer and say, please remember, a lot of what you hear here, you're not going to hear on mainstream media. We do a lot of work, a lot of research to keep you informed. And not only you, to keep anybody who listens to this, anybody of the several thousands who get our newsletter every day. We put the effort into putting all of that out on TikTok, Instagram, Telegram, YouTube Live, YouTube, Facebook Live. We make sure to get this information out. This little organization that we have here, we try, but we need your support. And your support comes via becoming what we call paid subscribers of our newsletter. And I've put it in the chat. Please go to politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. Please consider becoming a paid subscriber to allow us to continue doing this. I'm saying allow us. Right now, it's only me. But for this particular network, I need help. I need to get a few people to help me do more videos, to help me do more memes, etc. But right now, it's only me, and there's only 24 hours in the day, of which I do 16 hours a day behind this machine here. So I ask you kindly, those of you who have the wherewithal, we need about 570, last count that I have, 570 more paid subscribers is what we need yesterday. We're still in negative cash flow. We can really use, if you can help us get 570 paid subscribers, and the subscription rate is extraordinarily inexpensive. So please consider going to politicsdoneright.com/newsletter and become a paid subscriber. And you get a lot of perks for becoming a paid subscriber. You get a chance to read all our books online. You get a chance to we have every weekend we have the personalized program for you on the various times. On the weekend, you get a chance to have there's a lot. You can just go to our About section to see all the benefits we try to give you as being paid subscribers. So again, please go to politicsdoneright.com/newsletter and just click on become a paid subscriber and help us continue doing this important work. You can email me directly. I answer all my emails. info@politicsdoneright.com. info@politicsdoneright.com. Look, guys, love you all. Got to get out of here. Love you all. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right. And you guys know how I end this baby. I am what? Out.
Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right.